Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, it's Arcade with a brand new review. If you guys say, today we're going to review God of War, the new one, not the older ones. Y'all know. Anyways, before we get into it, I do live stream on Twitch every Monday through Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Eastern. Follow me on Twitch. Want to watch me on Twitch? I do variety streams. I play basically everything, anything. Right now, we're currently going through the Halo franchise. I play it once a year, so we're doing that again with Halo 3 at this moment. Follow me on Twitch. Link to me, Twitch, below, on the screen right now. Before we get into the meat and bones of the review, I always like to talk about my history with the game before playing it. I have none. I have no history with God of War. I've never played a God of War game before. When I owned a PS2, I only played like sport games and Dragon Ball Z games on PS2, and my other games I played on Xbox. So I didn't really play a lot of PS2 games. I didn't own a PS3 nor PS4, but I did see a decent amount of content on the series to understand what it's about and things of that nature. So I've seen like playthroughs of the older God of War games. Though I didn't play the original games themselves, I did play the copycats that followed the God of War formula. Darksiders series, Dante's Inferno, Metal Gear Solid Rise and Revengeance, X-Men Origins Wolverine game. Some others out there that follow that course. I played those well, and of course I played some classic franchises that have a similar style as God of War, but not necessarily copycats, aka Devil May Cry. Spoiler alert: this will be the last time I mention Devil May Cry in this video. So God of War, the new telling of the story from 2018, was released on PC this past January. Well, there was no game I planned on spending my birthday month playing more than God of War. Honestly, I feel kind of disappointed at finishing the game. The game can be beaten in under 24 hours if you just follow the main storyline itself. It's pretty short. I did a lot of exploring side quests, miscellaneous quests, and etc, and beat the game in under 36 hours. No, I didn't do everything in the game. I think if you did everything in the game, it'd probably like push you up to maybe 50 hours. Maybe. I was going to try to do everything in the game, but I got bored and just stopped caring. Because it wasn't fun. Like, when it comes to having a game that has, all these extra things to do, you have to make that stuff fun. When it comes to exploring an open world game, doing other things like side quests, miscellaneous quests, challenges, things like that has to be fun. I always preface this when it comes down to it, The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 has extra content around the main story that is just so good that you go out and do it. It makes you want to do side quests, miscellaneous quests, things like that because of how good that content is. God of War's extra content around the story, more or less, it's just there. Like, it's not amazing. Now, I know a lot of the fanboys and people who genuinely enjoy the game have already left the video and maybe end up, leaving a negative comment. I'm not saying the game is bad. Start things off. The question everyone asks to people who play the game for the first time is, what do you think about the opening boss fight? Because people love talking about the moment Kratos and Baldur on first fight. We see someone manhandling the Ghost of Sparta. That was something that you just don't see apparently. Again, I didn't play the other God of War games, so like that thought process doesn't have like a lot of impact in my head. Like, oh, so does Kratos never get his ass beat? Like, do you play through that entire what's it, like 3 games, 4 games? He just doesn't get his ass beat ever. It's like, I don't know the impact of seeing him get his ass beat would have. Now the initial shock is there though. Now you have no idea who this man is from just onto your lawn and inside the everlasting taste out of your mouth. Kind of like how you should smack the like button. But anyways, this is awesome. At first, I felt like this fight lasted way too long. Had some thrown in, just smash button moments, but overall was a good fight. From there, you and your son Tom Hiddleston turned you into a frog. Go on a journey to spread the ashes of your dead second wife on the highest peak of the game, the throat of the world, going to higher Hrothgar. Wait, wrong game. Along the way, you come across a few gods in the Nordic pantheon, just a few. A game called God of War doesn't really have that many gods present, but hey, there's a lot of sequel bait, so the next game will definitely have way more gods. Unlike previous God of War titles, this game changed it up a bit on how it's presented and how its combat works. This game is very story heavy, which is the strongest asset of the game. The story here, though short in length, is filled with a lot of lore, and what is there is great. All the voice actors did an amazing job. Writers did a great job, and just the overall when it comes to the visuals of the game and delivery of the story is astonishing. I mentioned the game with a different combat style. Often I talk about games that are a match made in heaven when it comes to changing up the formula of the gameplay. Halo being more open world, Assassin's Creed switches to an open world action RPG style. God of War has switched to a more grounded action style similar to that of the modern Assassin's Creed games or Souls games. to me wasn't the best choice. This isn't one of those match made in heaven situations. Maybe it fits the overall game with its slow, somber storytelling, and maybe that's why they have a more grounded form of combat. But God of War's action in past games drew people to it. Made other games like again Darksiders copy it. This is just more of the same gameplay we've already been getting for like numerous games. Like, how there was a time period where there's just so many FPS games. Right now there's so many action games that all have the exact same style of combat. And I mentioned in another streamer's chat who went on a rant about how she doesn't like the new God of War. Like, she just outright hate the game. She was sitting in her little gaming chair just destroying the game during her stream. And I mentioned in her stream that at least Devil May Cry stuck to its style because she's a Devil May Cry fan. When Devil May Cry 5 released, it didn't go through a drastic gameplay change. Developers know its players love that style, love having to string together combos and getting the highest ranks in the fights. Devil May Cry is a masterpiece in many ways, but it likely wouldn't be had it slowed down its combat and became another grounded roll around hack and slash action game that we are seeing so many of, something that God of War is right now. At least Souls games have iframes. I know it seems like I'm being super harsh on this game, but I'm just giving my honest opinion fresh off my first playthrough. Maybe a second playthrough would change up certain things. I think a second playthrough will only make me enjoy the story more, not necessarily the combat. But I don't dislike the game. I wasn't amazed by the game. A lot of the boss encounters were just meh. I even joked in my group chat about the first dragon fight you encounter. Sorry, but I've played a lot of Elder Scrolls and Dragon Age and even Dark Souls, so I've been a part of a lot of dragon fights, and maybe I've been spoiled. If you're someone who only plays God of War, you don't have that experience of fighting like all the dragons in Skyrim and fighting all the dragons throughout 3 Dragon Age games and the dragon encounters you do get in Dark Souls. You don't have all that experience. So maybe if you're not someone who's played so many games like I have, then the dragon fights in God of War will be so much better to you personally. But for me personally, with all the experience I do have, just wasn't really amazed by it. Sure, Magni and Bodhi fight is cool, but it's not memorable. And you fight Boulder, what, twice? The final fight between Kratos and him being the best boss fight in the entire game. But more the same as the first, just with more, you have more abilities and there's more dynamic to it. And again, the story impact that goes in with the boss fight makes it even better. Those are basically the only gods you fight in the game, though. While fighting variants of soulstone golems, basically, and variants of elemental giants, it's hard to not be disappointed in this game because there's not a lot there when it comes to boss encounters. And yeah, there's also like the Valkyries. I don't really consider them bosses, but basically many bosses and their side quests you're not forced to deal with the Valkyries. Very strong suit of the game, by the way. Valkyries in the game are amazing encounters, and the lore behind them is great as well. But again, they're not really gods, so the game lacks the gods when it comes to the name God of War. So, Atreus. This kid was interesting. First and foremost, as I mentioned, that the voice actors did an amazing job. That includes the kid who voiced Atreus. Phenomenal job. Atreus is someone who, from the outside looking in, all you hear is people calling him annoying. He's one of the worst things about the game, etc. I thought the way Atreus acted and was portrayed was the typical kid. Kids can be annoying in real life. They can have uncontrollable anger, be irrational. Their reactions aren't like mature. It's not a negative for the writers to write Atreus in a real way, which is how I see Atreus in the game. I see him written as how a kid is in real life. I have a lot of siblings, so I know how kids are. The Atreus came off to me as just a kid. I didn't find him annoying. I didn't be like, oh my god, this kid, and all these kid things about him. He's a kid. I think his character has a great character development. Finding out so much about himself, finding out that he's basically Loki. For us, that means something. For him, it doesn't mean anything, and he's going to learn about that, within the next game. You know, it's a name his mother wanted to give him, so he wants to figure out what that meaning is. Atreus is one of the other positive assets this game has. The other is Kratos himself. Once more, amazing voice acting. His character development is insane, which is massive to have a character who has been around as long as Kratos has, and he's still developing. And that development is amazing. Him going through, you know, what he went through in previous games, and then losing his love in this game and raising a son who initially thinks his father doesn't want him, doesn't love him. Kratos grows as a father in this game. He also grows as a character. This is massive. Again, I'm very into story. It's great storytelling to be able to take a character who's been around as long as someone like Kratos. The thing about Master Chief, Chief's been around for 20 years. You have to find ways to make the player interested into a character who's been around for this long, these iconic characters. And you're still developing that character and it works. You did an amazing job as a developer, as a storyteller, when it comes to developing characters who are already iconic, who already, you just put them on your screen, people know who it is, but you make it even better. Overall, I think God of War is an average game gameplay-wise, with storytelling, visuals, cinematics of an amazing video game. Those three things, storytelling, visuals, cinematics, are astonishing. They're the biggest assets of this game. Because of that, my score for God of War is 8 out of 10. The story, voice acting, visuals, you know, the lore, all of that carries this game when it comes down to it. Maybe it will be better gameplay wise if it's stuck with the original combat style. Again, maybe the idea of going with this grounded play style was, you know, because the story is very slow paced and, you know, very somber. It's not like an action packed story. So maybe an action style, like the original style of combat, wouldn't have fit the game. Who knows? We don't know unless he played it that way. With all that said, that's it for the review. Thank you for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. If you want to watch me stream games live on Twitch, links to the Twitch box below. So once on screen right now, I've been your boy, Archangel. Hope you all be safe, be kind to another. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.